Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Horn Call Podcast. My name is James Bolden. I'm the publications editor for the IHS and your host. Joining me today for our episode 64 is the one and only Ken Pope of Pope Horns in the northeastern part of the United States. Ken is returning as a member of the IHS Advisory Council, and he wasn't quite sure how many times he's been on the Advisory Council, but it's been multiple times. Just a wonderful resource in the horn community and a great asset to the Advisory Council. Ken has, as most of you probably know, a repair shop, a retail shop, consignment, pretty much all manner of things horn can be found through his store, both online and in person. He's a regular attendee at all of the workshops and symposia out there, and just a wonderful guy to talk to. I've known Ken for many, many years and done business with him lots and lots of times, and this was the first chance I really had to just sit down and get to know him a little bit, and I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. We talk about a whole bunch of things, how Ken got his start in the repair and retail business, his advice on trying horns, keeping horns in good working and playing condition, and then advice for those who are interested in getting into the repair and or retail business. So here is my conversation with Ken Pope. Awesome. Yeah, and thanks so much for joining me today, Ken Pope. And I'm pretty sure everybody knows who you are, but you want to just give us kind of the nutshell version, I guess, or the elevator pitch as to who you are and what you're doing these days?
Okay, I'm Ken Pope, former horn player and now just a horn fixer, customizer, and horn seller, and a lover of music. So
yeah, and a member of the IHS Advisory Council. Yeah,
that's right.
So it's very valuable having your view and opinion on that board. So thanks again for being here. So I was just saying before we started recording, it would be nice to kind of go back to some of your early days and talk about how you got started on the instrument and maybe early musical inspirations for you, and eventually what took you down the path to the music business.
Sure. I mean, I think I was 10 years old, and I told my mom I wanted to play an instrument, and I wanted to play the trumpet. And she said, you can either play the French horn, the oboe, or the bassoon, because everybody always needs one.
Uh-huh.
And the horn was the closest to the trumpet, so I took up the horn. And it was about the same size as me back then.
Yes, yeah. Did you grow up in Northeast, in New England area?
Yeah, even though I was born in California, we moved out to Boston, or to Acton, Mass, when I was 8 years old, I guess.
Okay,
So,
and pretty good band program or orchestra program growing up, and private lessons and things, or
terrible music programs. Right now I'm talking from my house in Texas. I spend some time down here, and the music programs in Texas just blow away anything we have up in the Northeast. But I had great teachers, though.
That's good.
Yeah. So,
did you get started on private lessons pretty early?
yeah, right off the bat, pretty much. The band director, he was a trumpet player, and he didn't like me because I really wanted to be a full-time musician, and he just wanted people who would play his band music. He actively worked to dissuade me from doing more than marching band.
Oh, interesting. What led you down that path of wanting to just be a horn player, to be but to be a horn player full time?
It was actually in high school when I was in, at that time it was called GYBSO, Greater Boston Youth Symphony Orchestra, and another group called MIWE, Massachusetts Youth Wind Ensemble. And I was playing with those groups, and we got to go to Greece, and I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. Music can take me all over the world, which it has.
Yeah.
And when I applied for colleges, I applied both for music, and my other passion was marine biology. And I also applied to schools for marine biology. And luckily, I got in everywhere I applied and chose music.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So where'd you end up going to college?
Oberlin Conservatory, studied with Robert Fries, and who's still with us. He's 94 now, and just amazing horn player.
Yeah, and that's a special town, a special place. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known several colleagues who spent some time at Oberlin, so yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, people who go there either love it or they transfer. You won't find anybody who's kind of, it was okay.
Well, and the conservatory itself, the con, is just kind of its own thing, too, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's tiny, very tiny. And when I was there were 8 horn players. They took 2 each year, so we played every. So.
No, that's awesome. And so, well, sort of before you went to Oberlin, growing up in the Boston, New England area, did you get to hear the BSO or the Boston Pops much? Was that a big influence on your concept of horn playing?
Yeah, I mean, I did get to go to open rehearsals. My parents hated driving into Boston, rightfully so. But I do remember when Empire Brass came to my school and gave a little concert, and Dave Ohanian was playing, and he and I got to talking and became friends from there on out. So.
That's great. Yeah. Did you have a favorite horn player growing up with, Barry Tuckwell or Herman Bauman or somebody else?
Yeah, I had 2 pretty much. I mean, everybody's favorite, when they first start would be Dennis Brain.
Sure.
But I loved all of the old Myron Bloom recordings at Cleveland Orchestra. It was really wonderful getting to know Myron through that shop and just as a friend over the years.
Yeah, those Beethoven symphony recordings are something else.
I have to tell you a quick story. When he was in my shop and I was asking him how he played so incredibly loud on the Beethoven 7 recording. He got all sheepish. He said, Ken, we tripled those horn parts.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is pretty impressive,
Yeah, to lay it down like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
But what I loved about Myron playing is he went for it every time. It was he played with a passion that was really wonderful to hear. So
yeah, there's some great recording. There's a Brahms trio recording that's really fantastic. So that's awesome. And so, at what point did you kind of get the bug for not just horn playing, but maybe going into the retail or repair business? Was that something all along, or did that come later?
I always worked with my hands. I was doing construction, and one of my very first jobs was working at the town dump.
Oh, wow.
In the recycling area, which was simply people would dump their trash and I would sort it. And I used to bring things home and fix them, and which really bothered my mom because I sometimes, without knowing it, would bring things home that she had just sent to the
That's the other way of recycling. That's reverse recycling.
Yeah. So, and then when I was at Oberlin, I realized that I wasn't going to be just waltzing into a performing position. I mean, jobs are scarce and very difficult to get. So I applied to learn repair up at a small school up in Minnesota. And while I was there, I was playing in different orchestras. And that stuck with me everywhere. I went from there to Delaware and then ended up in Boston. And everywhere that I would be working in a shop, I was also playing professionally too.
Okay. And this was Red Wing?
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that experience? And it's sort of, podcast is not an interview with me, but that's kind of in the back of my mind. I'd love to be able to take a sabbatical or something sometime and go up there and do some training and just kind of come back and be able to help this area and help my institution with that kind of stuff. It's been interesting to me for a long time as well.
I loved it there. Minnesota is interesting in the winter, but that's a whole other story. The teacher at the time was a guy named Gene Beckwith, and now his son, Greg, runs the shop. Yeah. And you get out of it what you put into it.
Okay.
Just as with anything, you get a lot of people who graduate who know just the bare minimum. I took to it. I just love doing it. I love trying to figure things out. I still do. And so rather than splitting my time between woodwinds and brass, I really focused on the brass part and really pushed Gene to do things like learning how to cut bells and all. And I got a really good foundation from there, and then just kept honing it over the years. Bob Osmond helped me a lot over the years.
Sure.
When I was working with him as well. So.
Yeah, well, what was the program there like? Did you did you go to classes like you would in college, or was it, I'm just interested in the whole thing, if you don't mind sharing a little bit. So
it was 2 rooms, 1 room for woodwind, 1 room for brass, and basically you would go in, and your very first day they'd hand you something, and they'd say, "Take it apart, put it back together."
Oh wow!
And which is fine with it. It's a brass instrument, a little more difficult when it's an oboe.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I took a clarinet apart one time, and it was for a project. It was to make a lamp out of it, so it didn't have to play when I got it back together. It looks like it's back together, but there's some things I could not get to actually function. I had to glue them back together. But it was going to be a lamp anyway, so it didn't have to work.
Yeah, and it was really nice there too, because I was also playing, and there was a fancy old hotel where I worked at while I was there as a front desk manager, and would perform in the old hotel. The chef's wife was a pianist, and then we get a violinist. We did the Brahms horn trio there. It was really fun. So,
well, that's awesome. And is it a 2-year program, or is it kind of depends, or
1-year program, basically 9 months. And,
okay.
Like I said, it really gives you the foundation to go from there. And if you just want to stop at that point, you're going to be delegated to probably just, not to negate this, but to always doing, school repairs or something like that. But
sure.
I wanted to do the high end stuff.
Okay. So what was that? You mentioned, working with Bob Osmond, some of Osmond Music, but how did you go from being, a band instrument repair person to being, working on triple horns and stuff like that? How did you make that leap?
It all started with a failed relationship.
Okay.
and a girlfriend and I broke up. I had no place to go, so I ended up moving back with my parents for a little bit, and went downtown Boston and talked to 2 different stores. One was Rayburn's Music, famous old place that's long since gone, and they offered me a job on the spot. And on the way home, I decided to stop off at Bob Osmond's shop. At that time, it was in Belmont. And Bob was interested in hiring me. Rayburn's just kept telling me to come back the next day, come back the next day, come back the next day. And then I just pulled up the town stand and ended up at Bob's. And I learned a lot working there. So.
Yeah, I remember, it would have been in the 90s, but that, he was always at all the workshops and the stuff, and bring all the horns and that kind of thing. So, yeah, he's still around though. I mean, the website's still up, although I hear, talk about him maybe moving in a different direction at some point or something, but
yeah, he's hoping to retire soon, and he's trying to work that out. I mean, let's see, I'm going to be 65 this year. Bob must be mid to late 70s. So yeah, I'm sure he's ready.
Yeah. Well, and his mouthpieces are still, you see him around a lot. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people using his mouthpieces. So
yeah, he knows a lot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay. So how long did you work with Osmond?
I think I was there 6.5 years.
Okay.
And it was wonderful because I got to, meet all the guys from Paxman, including Dick Merriweather and everybody. And every famous horn player that would come through town would stop off at his shop. And it really was exciting.
And then did you go into business for yourself right after that, or was there kind of a transition period?
What happened was, after I left the shop, I just had met my wife, Tess, which you who you might have met or not. And we immediately, upon getting married, got hired to play in an orchestra for Andrew Lloyd Webber and his wife. And we spent 3 years touring the world with that orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't until I came back off of that, when we decided we wanted to have kids, that I started working on opening my own shop in conjunction with also freelancing.
Okay. And this was in the Boston area then?
Yeah. And then I started studying with Dick Mackey at that time.
Okay, yeah.
He's still with us as well.
I took a couple lessons with him at Kendall Betts Horn Camp. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's super cool. Just a really, really good guy. Great teacher from my little experience with him.
Full of stories. And, when I started subbing with the Boston Symphony, it was really fun to be sitting next to him. Some of the stories I could tell were really fun.
I imagine so. And who was principal at the time? Kavalovsky or?
Yep.
Okay.
It was Chuck. And then he was taking a sabbatical, and then he also fell off of a roof.
Oh, my goodness.
So he was out for a couple of years, and it was kind of rotating. It was Jay Wadenfull was in, and Gus, of course, who was now principal, and one of the nicest, most amazing horn players you could ever hear. It was fun.
Yeah, I worked with Chuck Kavalovsky just a little bit at a summer program one time. Very interesting man, but just the most perfect horn sound you could ever imagine. Just this ooh, I could never quite get it to sound the way he wanted it to sound in lessons with him, but
yeah, he had a different style of playing than I was used to. Very different style. In fact, the whole section at that time was very different than what I had grown up with the Cleveland Orchestra recordings or the old Paul Perret Detroit recordings, things like that.
Right. Since you're in the equipment business and I'm kind of an equipment junkie a little bit, what were they playing on at the time in Boston? What kind of horns?
Oh, all different things.
All different. Okay.
It depended on what we were playing. I mean, I remember Chuck had his favorite Crispy. And in fact, when he would bring it to the shop, he would tell me, nobody plays this horn. Nobody plays. He didn't want anybody to put a bad note on it or anything like that.
Oh, that's funny.
He had that. He had a Paxman Model 60, which is a B flat, high B flat.
Right. Yep.
And which he would use in interesting ways, like they were doing Bruckner 4. He would use the high B flat to do the opening.
How interesting.
Well, because your odds of missing.
Right. Yeah. It's a trumpet then at that point. Yeah.
Exactly. And what else was? I don't remember. Dick Mackey was on his Nickel Schmidt. Jay Waterful was on a Geyer. John Minkus was playing a Rico Kuhn near the end, and they all were switching constantly. Danny Katzen was playing I can't remember the guy. He only made 22 horns, and he had studied a little bit with Geyer, and the name went right out of my head, but I'll think of it.
Oh, how interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, that sounds similar to what I've heard they do oftentimes in San Francisco, and they just bring different horns for different pieces, or they've got quite the collection going out there. They'll just bring different horns for different things. So,
well, they take it to an extreme out there. John and Bob. Well, I mean, Bob just retired, but John Ring and I were in college together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, okay, so I guess I have two different questions going in my head at the same time, but I have to ask them one at a time. So I guess the first one would be what was the freelancing scene in Boston like at the time, and to the extent that now, how has it changed? In 2025.
I was really lucky, both my wife and I, in that I think it's a lot more difficult now. For example, last time I played Phantom of the Opera, and I've played it hundreds and hundreds of times. It came through town in what was called the chamber version.
Oh, no.
Which it used to have 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, and 3 French horns. The chamber version just has 1 horn, no other brass.
Oh, my goodness.
And but the interesting thing was there were all these extra keyboards, and guess where all the other parts were?
Yeah, the synth pads and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So that back in the day when I was doing all these shows, we had full groups, and a show would sit down for sometimes the full summer. I remember doing Ragtime and Bantam, all these different shows, and we would be there for months. So nowadays that doesn't really happen, and the pay structure has changed as well.
Right. Yeah. And the business has changed a lot. Well, and then I guess that the next question I was going to ask you is related to, opening your own shop. How did you even get started? I mean, obviously you got to find a space and get all the tools and get up to speed and all of that kind of stuff. But what kinds of things do you wish you'd known then that you know now about getting into that business?
It's expensive. The tools, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But making a name for yourself takes a while. Luckily, since I had been at Bob's, people already knew me. But I was also lucky because since I was a player as well,
right,
I was respected on both ends, where I could try the horn, make certain it was working correctly.
Mm-hmm. Did you start by cleaning people's horns and doing custom work, and then get into the retail side, or was it both at the same time? How did that work?
No, I started honestly. I didn't want to go into direct competition with Bob, so I started by only doing woodwinds because I didn't know how to repair woodwinds. But I just didn't like doing it that much, woodwind. And so I started doing repairs, and rather than getting into the trouble that so many businesses get into, where they get financially over their heads by taking out loans to buy product, I decided to focus on selling used horns because there's no financial outlay.
Right.
And the very first horn conference I went to as Pope Horns, or Pope Repair back then, was one in Michigan. I can't remember the year. It would have been around 1994 or something like that.
Okay.
All I brought was used horns. And then once I had saved up enough funds to start importing horns, I had just been on tour with the Boston Symphony in Germany, and the players went out to Rico Kuhn's shop. They each bought a horn from Rico and told me that I needed to start carrying those horns. So I became the first U.S. distributor of Rico's horns. And that was the first instruments I brought in. And then Yamaha and Dietmar Dirk and everybody else, Johannes, everybody else started falling in place there. Yeah,
I mean, I've never played a Kuhn, but I hear really good things about them. And, of course, they sound fantastic. So
all the player. I mean, the horns are, no, I don't mean that. I mean, they're great horns, but you know what I mean?
It's very much like the car and driver thing. You can have the fanciest sports car in the world, but if you're a terrible driver, you're still not going to, it's not going to turn out very well.
Yeah.
But if you are a good driver or a competent driver, having the sports car does help.
Yeah. I remember a student from Boston University told me that they came in with their horn. It wasn't a very good horn. And I said, have you ever thought about getting a new horn? And he said, well, my teacher picked it up and tried it and said, it's fine. But of course, their teacher could play,
sure,
Carnival of Venice on a plastic straw.
Right. Now, I know you've written an article, or probably more than one article, but the one I'm thinking of is you wrote pretty recently for the Horn Call about trying horns at shows and things. I think it would be good to talk about that again, though, because that's always an interesting thing. There's that phenomenon of people going to workshops and things, and they have their little thing they play on at the table. But then is that a healthy way or the most effective way to try out an instrument? How does one go about selecting a good instrument at one of those conferences, would you suggest?
Well, the good thing about those conferences is that you can try 150 horns. I mean, I have 150 horns in my shop, but you can try I have a lot of good stuff and a lot of crap. But the good thing is that at these conferences, you can try every maker, every kind of mouthpiece, whatever. And even though it's super noisy in these shops, you can, with a good respected shop, you can talk them into letting you take it out, try it, keep it for a week, whatever. And you save some money from not having to have it shipped, all that stuff. So,
and running the risk of damage or loss and shipping. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just had 3 horns crushed last week.
Oh no,
I haven't had any damage in ages. I just had 3 horns crushed.
Ugh, that's a bummer. Yeah. So when if someone, if it were you trying a horn and potentially laying out several $1,000s for something, what are the things you would test out on the instrument? What kinds of stuff would you play?
Well, first you want to know why you want a new. Are you just bored with your old horn? Which a lot of people just are like, I've had this horn for 30 years. I want something new. Or, are there things that are not overcomable on your horn? And once you figure that out, then you have to be careful, because it's easy to find a horn that doesn't have the problems that your current horn has.
It's got a whole new set of problems.
Exactly. And those might take a day or two to show themselves. And there is no such thing as a perfect horn. So what you try to do is find a horn that does everything well enough that it doesn't keep you back on what you want to do. So I remember one of my very first horns. It was a York double horn. And I always was missing F sharps, top line F sharps.
Okay. No Tchaikovsky for you.
My teacher was getting so frustrated, and finally he grabs my horn out of my hands and he goes to play an F sharp. There was no F sharp at all. And then he felt terrible for all of the years that he'd been, giving me a hard time about this.
Well, what was it? Just a bad note, or was there something in a misalignment in the valve or something? Or
who knows? I was young at that point, but I had horns come in often without a high B flat in them or high A's. I mean, those are unsurmountable to an extent. I mean, you can always get different lead pipes and other things, but if I have something that bad, I'm more tempted to go to a different horn.
Yeah, and it's a pretty cool age we live in, with just the variety of horns available, and the mouthpieces that are available. There's no longer just 5 different mouthpieces you can try. There's, hundreds of, probably thousands of different combinations between rims and cups and bore and all of that stuff. So it's a little bit daunting, but it is a good situation to be in terms of there's a mouthpiece and a horn out there for everybody pretty much.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody, do not shop for a mouthpiece at the same time you're shopping for a horn. One or the other. You don't want to limit the variables.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You'll go down a rabbit hole or a bunch of rabbit holes.
Yeah, well, you won't know if it feels better because you're playing on a different rim or a different cup or a different horn,
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody buy a horn from you and, they love it in the shop, and then they get it, and then they want to return it after a couple of weeks? Or is there anybody ever complain of a lemon? And you don't have to divulge any names or anything if you don't want to.
Complain about not so much a lemon, but just that it doesn't work for them. That happened. I mean, that's part of the process. But
sure.
On the flip side, I had one of the funniest things happen where a person came in and wanted to try a Geyer horn that I had. She took it out and tried it, returned it, didn't like it. About 2 or 3 weeks later, she happened to be in the shop, and the same Geyer happens to come back in the shop from somebody who had just tried it. She said, "Oh, what's that?" It's a Geyer. And I was just about to say, "It's the one you tried already." And she picked it up and played it. She's like, "Oh, can I try this?" And
wow.
This is the horn she tried before, and she's still playing it to this day. So the first time around, it didn't take, and now she's been playing the same horn for about 35 years. So,
people, we're such interesting creatures, aren't we? There's such a psychological, emotional attachment we have to things. And it's like those mouthpieces with famous people's names on them. It's not going to make you play like that famous person, but we sure do buy them and want to, we think this will be the one that helps us play like this person.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, in terms of, okay, so this is a big question. I'm sure people will be interested in this. If there are, what are things that we could be doing to maintain our instruments that a lot of players just don't do, that would save them lots of money in the long run for repairs? What are some tips you would give for keeping your instrument out of the repair shop?
There's one main one, and it's just 3 letters long. And do you think you know what it is?
Does it start with an O?
Yes.
Yeah.
What kills a brass instrument is exactly what we put into it, which is moisture. And oil not only lubricates, but it keeps the brass from rotting. 90% of all of the damage that I have to deal with, not like dropping or broken solder, but the wear, the rot, everything just comes from not oiling. I mean, you can you can't really over oil. I mean, you can oil so much it comes out, makes a mess, whatever, but it doesn't hurt you.
No. The right amount ends up getting deposited onto the valves,
I still remember when Bob Osmond and I were invited together to give a talk out at Tanglewood and about horn maintenance. And Bob went first and covered every single aspect of how to keep a horn, working. He went on and on and on. And I was to go next, and I was like, he covered everything. So I walked up and I just said, oil your horn, and I walked off, and everybody applauded.
There you go. Yeah, and brush your teeth. Brushing your teeth helps too. Yeah. Well, no, that's excellent advice, and you'd think we'd figure that out, but yeah, I have to remind myself to do that too.
Well, my first horn teacher told me that in Germany they used to take their horn and put goat's milk in it, and then put the horn in the closet and let it sit for a week till it got all curdled, and then they'd rinse it out, and then they'd use it. And I don't know if Alexander still says this, but they used to tell people not to oil their valves, that the moisture was enough to keep them working. But
how interesting.
That's also probably why there is no used horn market in Germany, because all the valves are worn out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I have heard there are different philosophies out there about how often to get one's instrument professionally cleaned and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that is an interesting thing. The recommendations I've heard are every year to 2 years get it professionally cleaned.
Yeah, that's about right. It really depends on the player. I remember, for example, Dave Ohanian, when he played with Canadian and Empire Brass, he used to bring his horn into me to get cleaned 2 or 3 times a year, not because it was dirty, but just because he loved the way it felt after going through the ultrasound machine.
Yeah.
So he was convinced that it changed the molecular structure, and I said, Dave, whatever you believe, that's fine with me.
Well, and the people were freezing their horns there for a while, the cryogenic stuff. You don't hear about that too much anymore, but I remember for a while there that was kind of a thing people were doing.
Well, I really researched into that, and my uncle was the dean of metallurgy, so I asked him a lot of questions about that.
Oh, how interesting!
It was interesting, but I don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and I mean, just in terms of the logistics of it, having to get the equipment to be set up for that, it seems like.
In Boston, I mean, there's so many high-end, we call it electric companies that do computers and all that kind of stuff, that there's lots of people with that kind of equipment around, liquid nitrogen.
Oh, okay. So, oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you got MIT right there, and all that stuff.
Yeah, MIT, in fact, also did a study on the cryogenic freezing as well. So.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Well, okay, so you've been doing this a long time, and you're basically a household name in terms of there's you and maybe 2 or 3 other people in the U.S. that are household names as far as this kind of stuff goes. Well, I guess for one, how did you, when you were doing a lot of playing, how did you keep it all balanced? Running the shop and keeping your playing in order, all that kind of stuff.
That was difficult, and we also had 2 sets of twins too at the time that were only 2 years apart. So I was pretty exhausted, and I'm sure Tess was too, because she was dealing with the kids a lot while I was playing, and she was also playing at the time. Basically, I would work 40 hours a week at the shop and then play on weekends and evenings. So,
oh my goodness!
I didn't start really reining it in until I opened my own shop. And I'm still now working 6 days a week in my own shop, but I was able to lower the number of hours in the shop so that I have a little time here and there off.
Right. Yeah. What's your favorite part of the business?
I just like figuring out how damage happened and how to fix it perfectly. I mean, it's really fun to take something that's completely mashed, where they're afraid it's going to be a work of art on a wall in a TGIF restaurant, and to make it look like it never happened. That's really fun. I enjoy doing that. And I used to do the the work rebuilding instruments for the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. So working on stuff from the 1600s, really fun.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah. No, good dent work is, it's an art unto itself. But have you ever, as a horn, ever come into your shop that you were like, this is a total loss, or have you always been able to get them back in playing shape?
There's been such an influx of really poor quality instruments over the last 20 years that oftentimes I'll tell somebody that, yeah, I can fix it, but you only paid new $500 for this double horn. Warning right there.
Right.
And it's just not worth fixing. Not that I can't fix it, but it's not worth fixing.
Is this like something shoddy with the valves, or like the solderings come apart, or?
Usually it's valves. It's really difficult. A mark of a good quality horn is how well they can fit the rotors to the casings. Good compression is a huge teller on how the horn will play.
Right. No, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, and without throwing any particular brands under the bus or anything like that. But yeah, I think we all know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's true with every make. And they're not all just, horns from China or whatever, because there are good ones from all different countries. It's just, you never know.
Yeah. Well, so looking back over things, from when you started out in this business to today, how have things changed? You be as detailed or not as you want, but I think it would be interesting to talk about how the business of buying and selling instruments on consignment and getting the right horns into people's hands. How has that business changed for you over the years?
The repair business has gotten interesting because we have so many new products now. For example, ultrasonic cleanings. My dad worked for MIT Lincoln Lab, and they used to use ultrasonic for when they were working on nuclear powered things to clean the parts. And then the automobile industry really took to using ultrasonic. What's his name? Wayne Tanabe from Yamaha. Wayne was the one who really got me going on trying ultrasonic, and what a game changer. Before that, we would use really nasty acids.
The dip.
Bright dip, silver cyanide, all sorts of different things. I remember if I left the lid off of the cleaning solutions, all the metal, all the pipes and the ceilings would rust. And then I started thinking, oh man, I'm breathing this stuff. Yeah.
You got to wear those big rubber gloves and
And also the thing about the old chemical cleaning, or acid baths as we call them, they were only as good as the degreasing aspect. Because if you have something covered in grease and you dip it in oil, nothing's going to happen. You have to be able to fully get the grease off for the acid to do its work.
Right.
Ultrasound doesn't work that way because it tears off the acid to everything. The grease.
Yeah, those little scrubbing bubbles do a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And just having a little bit of the solution in there, the kind of the surfactant or the whatever it is, the soap.
Stuff to break up the surface tension. Yeah. And then other things like using rare earth magnets and stuff like that to help, or even to help remove dents or to hold pieces in place. Lots of little things that really make life easier than the old style.
Yeah. Well, and then of course, the internet, just as far as getting your business out there and that sort of thing, I imagine has been beneficial in some ways.
Yeah. I'm not so good on that aspect. In fact,
website looks great. I mean, it works. That's the important thing.
Websites are, a website like that is extremely expensive because it does everything. But I pay over $1,000 a month just for the website. And I'm sure there are ways to bring that price down, but I don't have the time to learn, all that coding and stuff like that. I have to give a lot of kudos, for example, to Derek at Houghton. Derek is fabulous at doing all of the social stuff and learning how to do that. I've never been able to do that stuff very well. And often I am not good at keeping my mouth shut. Everybody out in the listening line is like, "Yep, that's right."
Well, I think you have a lot of friends and supporters in the horn playing community, so we'll leave it at that. But well, no, that's good to hear. And okay, so what advice would you give to someone who's looking to either get into the repair side and or the retail side of things? Are there things they could be doing that will help them kind of go down that path a little more easily?
Yeah, I mean, I get requests probably monthly of somebody who wants to come and learn from me,
like apprentice or something like that, or intern, I guess.
And to be honest, no shop really has the time to teach you to do that.
Right.
And if they do, you're not going to be learning the high end stuff. You're just going to be learning, how to, take care of hemorrhaging,
right?
All of the stuff that has to get back out there quick. So my suggestion would be always to find a school to go to get the basics first, or see if it's what you like. And then from there, you're going to be more hireable, and whoever your employer is going to really appreciate that you already come with a fundamental approach to it. In terms of playing, don't do it unless you love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you do love it, boy, I don't know how I would do it today. It's the level of players nowadays, I think, is way higher than even when I was younger in terms of, especially when I'm down here in Texas and I hear all of these students play. I never sounded like these guys. They sound incredible in high school.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember I used to play in the Rhode Island Philharmonic.
Uh-huh.
It was an amazing orchestra because it pulls all of these young students from Boston and New York. And, that's happening all across the country. Even here in Abilene, I'll go hear the Abilene Philharmonic, and it's pulling players up from Dallas and Fort Worth. There's fabulous orchestras everywhere now. The problem is finding ones that give you enough to make a living on.
Right. Well, and so often these days people have to, balance 2 or 3 or 4 different kind of gigs, and from that they can put together enough to make it work.
Right. And that's what I did, pops, ballet, shows. And then the nice thing was that the repair shop provided an insurance of income for me.
Right.
And it did a funny thing too, which is that because I was making money at the shop, I didn't have to take every gig that was offered.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I started turning gigs down, suddenly people thought I was a better player than I was.
You became exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, Ken said no. We've got to have Ken. So
that's there. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. But I'm sure you could do the job, or they wouldn't have hired you in the first place. So,
well, that's true of any. Yeah. But there's a lot of luck too, because there were other people who could do the job as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Make certain you get along with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, when you go to these workshops, it's the camaraderie you see, especially amongst the people bringing their instrument. The exhibitors. Just I'm sure there are beefs behind the scenes, but that you guys and gals put on a good face for the attendees. Everybody seems to get along and work well together. Everybody always seems to be willing to help each other out because how hard it is, in this business.
Yeah, and there's so many really nice people in this business. I just love all of the guys, for example, from Paxman and that British sense of humor. They're just wonderful people and make wonderful instruments. But there's so many of them all across the board. And you're right. All of the vendors, we do have a lot of fun together. Mm-hmm. We share a lot of stories.
You got to keep each other from going insane, being stuck in that room all day, listening to Wagner and Mozart and Strauss.
Short call.
Yeah.
Up an octave. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ken, I can't believe how fast this time has gone by. I have two more quick things for you if you have time.
Sure.
So, is there anything in your shop in terms of instruments or equipment or processes or anything that you're excited about coming up? Is there anything people can kind of be looking forward to?
I'm trying to think of new models, but it's not so much about new models. I just really enjoy working with the different makers to try different ideas. And for example, I had an idea for a horn, and I called up Dietmar Dirk and Steve Lewis, and they came out, and we spent a week drinking lots of beers and designing a horn together. Fun stuff like that. I always enjoy when different orchestras come through town and stop by the shop, but I can't think of any one specific thing. I mean, there's one secret thing I'm working on that I can't really divulge right now, but I see people like Miles O'Malley doing wonderful things. I mean, he's going to be the future. And then you've got wonderful people like Jan Baloo, who just, I love the band. So he's a great guy. They just have such a passion for helping people and doing high-end work.
Well, that's great. No, it's good to hear. And, I always appreciate, going to your site, and it's a smorgasbord of everything horn. They're just it's just about anything you need you can find between you and some of the other folks out there. It's a good time to be needing stuff for the horn.
Well, I'll tell you, I was just chatting with Karen Houghton, and we're all kind of worried right now. It's hard times right at this very moment,
right?
With all of the tariffs and things. I don't know how many shops are going to not make it through this because we can't even order anything right now.
Yeah, uncertainty is never great for business.
Yeah. So right now I still have a lot of horn, but I can't order anything until I know how much it's actually going to cost me.
Right.
So if anybody's looking for horns, right now is the time before all of this goes really crazy, and it's really starting to go crazy.
Well, here's to hoping that there's, if nothing else, clarity and a little bit more certainty coming for everybody.
Yeah, clarity. That would be just to know. That would be really good.
Yeah. Well, I think the horn playing community is going to do its best to try to keep you all in business, because we always need horns, and we're always looking for that one mouthpiece that's just going to make everything sound better. And
you talked to the wrong guy on that, because I've only ever used two mouthpieces my entire career.
That's amazing.
One time I was playing the end of the show, and it had 36 high Bs just in the first movement alone. Anyhow, at the very end, I get to the end, and I was like, wow, those high notes were coming out really easy tonight. And I'm putting my horn away, and I see my mouthpiece in the case already. And I played the entire show on some other mouthpiece. I don't know where it came from. I didn't even know.
You're not the first person to say stuff like that, though. I've known a lot of great players who they have like a pocket, and they have a pocket full of mouthpieces, and they just pull one out, and it's like, doesn't seem to affect them that much. So there's probably something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But and then the last thing I was going to ask you about, Ken, is we mentioned at the top of the interview that you're a member of the advisory council of the IHS, and so it would be nice to maybe share some parting thoughts about what that organization has meant to you, and encouragement for other people to anybody listening to this podcast that's not an IHS member to join up.
Well, I can't stress enough how important the IHS is to horn players in so many ways. Just, going to the big conventions where you get to hang with the most amazing people. That's where I really got to know Barry Tuckle quite well. And then over the years, going to different shows around the world and being with him. You can talk to these players that you've only ever seen or heard, and they're so willing to help and be wonderful. And then to all of the information you can get online, plus the outreach programs that the IHS has, it's just fabulous. this is my third or fourth time being on the AC. I can't recall, but it's so worth doing. I mean, it's for certain people, it's a huge amount of work, and you and Dan and everybody else that's doing all of the behind the scenes stuff. For us, it's much less so on the AC than it is for the rest of you doing it. So much more work.
Well, but thank you. But the AC is really you all determine what the IHS is in collaboration with the membership, obviously, and right. I'm happy to be behind the scenes. I don't need to be out front or anything, but I think about this a lot. I mean, the horn call is a big part of the IHS, but the IHS is a lot more than just the horn call, and that's something right. that I think people ought to be aware of. Yes, it's the journal, but it's the conferences and the website and the scholarships and the commissioning and just all of the resources that are made available.
Yeah, the money they give out to people who want to do horn days and things like that. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yep. So, well, Ken, this has been a great talk, and it's been really great getting to know you a little bit better. Thanks so much for doing this.
You too, James.
The Horn Call Podcast is the official podcast of the International Horn Society. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the International Horn Society. Copyright International Horn Society. Music by Brian K.M.